All right. Hello, students. This will be the last video for a moment. Depending on when I upload these, the other assignments may already be uploaded, but I'm not sure. But right now, I just know this is where I'm gonna stop because it's getting very late and I am ready to go home. So this assignment is called Into the Unknown. You can kind of tell I actually like that song, even though many people didn't like that second movie. But to each his own and to one own opinion. So this particular assignment is in Schoology. You are to put the answers in Schoology, and I will grade it from there. Um, there are certain part. There is one part of this assignment, or it may be like another part. I think this one I mostly did everything, but it's in two parts. So this assignment, even though it's one assignment, it counts twice. Half of it, or about half, roughly, maybe a little bit more than half, is in one part of the assignment in Schoology, and then the rest of it is in a second part. They are literally still named Into the Unknown. Both of them have that name, but the page numbers are slightly different depending on where I stopped in them problem wise. So let's look at this assignment. Now, I'm really not going to talk about the first part because this was a part of the homework, but you just got to read the directions. Um, and it's pretty self-explanatory. Honestly, I can say this in one word what you're doing. You're matching, okay? You're matching. Now, if you still have the packet, remember this is called Into the Unknown. If you still have that packet, these words are located in that packet. So since you're matching, if you read what is going on here, you'll know what you're matching it to. Now, the remembers are just little good tidbits to remind you of things that was said in the lesson, or if it wasn't said in the lesson, some things you need to think about so that you can understand a concept or term or skill a little bit better. So you can simply read this, but that was not a part of the homework because, once again, it's just something you can read and move on from. Now, this part. Honestly, I'm trying to decide how. I'm looking at my face. I don't know what that expression means, but I do feel some kind of way about this part of the assignment because we literally did some of these in class, and I even did some as examples. And then when I'm not going to go off on my tangent. So let me focus. Let's focus. So there are four of these problems. Now, because of the type of problems we are dealing with, I am going to help you set them up, but I am not going to solve a thing. The reason I'm not going to solve a thing is because I've already told you how to solve these type of problems. And I will remind you again in this assignment. You are going to be using substitution. You got to read, well, the directions are not that long, but you got to read the directions. So you will be substituting in these setups to figure out the rest of the parts. As you can see, each one of these has an A and B. I will only be helping you with A. B's are on your own. Because if A is wrong, your B will be wrong. And then you will simply just fail the assignment. So let's start looking at the A's. Now, if you've watched any of my other daily work videos, you already know that I have a rule about these daily works. I will not read. I am not reading these problems at all. You need to read them yourself. I'm just going to explain what I'm going to do. And that's about it because I've already read them. Now, in this particular scenario, we have a situation where we have to write an algebraic expression for shirts. So I don't know how many shirts I'm buying, but I know each one costs $5.99. Now, when you put this into Schoology, please do not put the dollar sign so that it can actually check you itself. This one actually tells us what the variable should be, so you can't just use any variable you want. So in the case of this one, I would do $5.99 And depending on how many shirts I want to buy, I would multiply that with that amount, and that will tell me how much money I'm actually spending on these shirts. But for right now, unless I know the amount of shirts, I don't know how much money I would be spending. B is on you. You need to substitute into that expression. Now, many of y'all got number one, which once again, it wasn't that hard. But number two is where I kind of saw some problems. So, number two, you basically have some pages that you want to separate into folders. Okay, well, I don't know how many pages you have. It's like me giving you these packets. If you were to take the staple out and just put all these papers together, you would have quite a bit of pieces of paper. If you wanted to split them up into folders, you could you could divide it evenly. I kind of gave it to you because this was a division problem, and some people were dividing it wrong. So we don't know how many pages we have, but we know we want to split it into 7 folders. Okay. So substitute into this expression and figure out how many pages would go into one folder. And that is all for number 2. Number 3. I don't understand how people miss number 3. So unless your parents never told you or you never seen them use coupons, which is all possible because most of the stuff we do nowadays is digital and not a lot of people carry around coupon books anymore. But coupons were literally things you can use to get off either a percentage of a cost or just a specific price of a cost so that whatever you're paying for would go down. The whole objective of a coupon was to pay less than what you owed. So in the case of this one, we have a bill. So whatever we're paying for, I believe this is food. Whatever we're paying for, it costs a certain amount. But we have a coupon that will take off $5 from that. And that's basically it. The coupon is making us pay $5 less than what we usually would. So in this particular situation, substitute in the numbers that's given in B and see how much people would actually pay for their meals if they use this $5 coupon. Last but not least is number 4. Now, I will admit number 4 is kind of tricky, but a couple of students actually did get this one correct. So, we're dealing with a book. It's a book that you're reading. Now, you have a start amount. So, you have already read for 2.5 hours. Now, you can write this, I would prefer it in fraction form because that's how it reads, 2.5. But you are also allowed to put this in decimal form if that would be easier for you. But we're doing additional hours. So if I have sat here and read for 2.5 hours, then whatever additional hours I tack on after that amount, I would just add it to what I had at first. So this is what I already did. So this time has already passed. And now I'm trying to figure out how much more time I need to put along with it or add to it. So all you're going to do is substitute the numbers from B into this expression. See, now it's time for me to go. So this really is the last assignment for today. So substitute the numbers in for B and see what you get. And that is what you're going to put in for your answers. Now, each B has 2 numbers. So do with that what you will, but you got to do both numbers. Okay, that's what I'm saying. You got to do both numbers. Now, that is this side of the page. We still got the other side of the page to do, and then I will be done. Now, this particular side, I don't understand how students just did this recently and got it wrong because this particular side was done in the review of Module 4. I literally copied it from the homework because I kind of figured students would have trouble with this part and I wanted to go over it in class without going over this entire homework assignment. So you go look at the review. It tells you how to put it in. Um, that review actually has videos because we did not get through all of that in class. So I would suggest go watch those videos to figure out what you should be doing for these because I'm not going to repeat that. Now I'm trying to remember how this assignment was divided up so I know what to do next. I believe the last thing on the first part of the assignment stops here. I believe that's correct because this was fill in the blank. Now, many people have been getting this wrong, but we did this in the assignment. But I would understand if you were not in class that day when we did the assignment, then this particular part will be hard for you if you don't understand what's going on. But I will tell you, if you still have the packet, read through this lesson and figure out what these words mean so that you can understand what we're about to do. And once again, make sure you read directions. So, I kind of gave you a hint if you did this in Schoology because I made certain boxes. There's two parts to this assignment. The first thing is you got to tell me how many components there are, how many terms there are. And then the second part was for you to list the terms. Now, because you had to list the terms, I had to make enough boxes for you to list the terms. So I actually kind of told you how many terms there were. But for this example, line was too long. For this example, I am only going to do 9 because this is that easy. When I explain this one, you should have enough understanding to finish the rest. It's not that complicated. So you need to know the definition of a term. And once you understand the definition of a term, this becomes very easy. Algebraic expressions have terms. Even numeric expressions have terms. So in the case of this one, it has 2 terms. Now, terms do not include operations. So even though this has 3 pieces, it only has 2 terms because you cannot include operations. Those 2 terms are 6y and 14. And that is it. I am done with that one question. And it was that quick. I told you how many terms it was, and then I told you what the terms were. That's all. There's nothing else to this assignment. Now, on part 2 of the assignment in Schoology. So this will be in the second one. The rest of this will be in the second one. That one starts here. So make sure you read the directions. Remember, I told you it is very important that you start practicing substitution. Now, yes, it's a lot of skills I'm asking you to do, but I want you to be successful. And many of these skills you will need, if not next year, then the year after that or the next year after that, because most of the stuff in 6th grade is foundational and you need it for other maths that come later. This is one of those skills that I am for sure, I know, will come later in these next 3 years, and you will need to know it. So, substitution. Remember, substitution in math is when you replace a letter or variable. Let's work on our vocabulary. When we replace a variable with a number or value. So, in the case of this one, I want to do these, but I really want to do this one because I know some of my students still struggle with division. You can figure out what an exponent is, and if you don't know how to solve exponents, I would suggest you watch a YouTube video, honestly. So I'm going to do number 14 for the simple fact I don't need no one complaining about a division problem. You should be able to do the rest. So for this one, we have d over 5 plus 42. For d equals negative 70. So it literally told me what d was. So I can simply replace that variable with that number and solve so I can get a value or number. So I'm going to place 70 where d was, and then everything else stays the same. So now I have to solve. Well, the thing about this is I have 2 operations. I have this fraction, which is related to division, and then I have this plus sign, which is, of course, addition. So in the case of order of operations, I am going to divide first. So I need to divide this. Now, I would divide it on the side, but I'm going to just quickly divide it in my head because you get the point, hopefully. So 5 can go into 7 one time. Then that leaves me a 2. 2 gets added with 0, so that's 20. And then that gives me 4. Now, since I have a negative divided by a positive, remember there are 2 methods you can use when multiplying and dividing negatives and positives. Even though I said this is for multiplying and dividing integers, it's really for the signs. It's not so much for the operations themselves. So remember for this one, you simply cover up what has been given. So I was given a negative and a positive. So I can cover this up, or I can cover these 2 up. I just need to cover up one negative and positive, and I'm left with a negative. So this will be a negative. Now, the other method I showed you was the tic-tac-toe box, where you have to follow the sign. So remember, the diagonal, only one diagonal, is all positives. Everything else is negatives. And then you follow the sign of what you have. I had a negative times a negative divided by a positive will still give me a negative answer. So just follow the progression of your signs. So that gives me negative 14 plus 42. Going to adding integer rules, which is basically just adding when you have different signs or same signs, depending on what's going on. This one is different signs. So different sign rule says to subtract. So I'm going to subtract these 2. So I subtracted the 2, and now I need to take the sign of the bigger number. Well, looking at 14 and 42, if I have 14 items and I have 42 items, 42 items is clearly more items than the 14. And 42 is positive, so my 28 is positive. So that means this is 28. And you would just type that into the fill in the blank box that is in Schoology so that you can get your work checked. Now, once again, we are skipping the stretches, although this was a very good one. I would have only had y'all answer number 1 and number 2, though, because number 3, even I didn't want to answer. But it would be a good little test and challenge to see if you could come up with an answer, because there are multiple ways to solve that, to get to a good answer for number 3. It doesn't just have one way. Well, there is one way to do it, but there are multiple answers that it could be. But we're going to skip that for now. You don't need to do that. Now, as for this one, I'm not going to do neither one of these. You need PEMDAS if you didn't recognize that, because there are multiple operations going on in both of these. This is literally a review of what we just did in the last lesson, because this is lesson number 2. Lesson number 1 was relationship matters, and that whole lesson was about PEMDAS, the order of operations and how it works. So I am not going to go over PEMDAS again. I didn't went over PEMDAS in 2 other assignments, honestly, because that's how important PEMDAS is. It's pretty much everywhere if you're looking for it, even when you're not. So you just need to use PEMDAS on this, so I am not going to explain those. Use the skill and make sure you use it. Do everything from left to right when you get to its section. There are 4 parts. Do each part from left to right, and you will be successful. Now, for this part down here, this is something very, 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 very old. We went over this in like September. So right about now, you may have forgot how to do it. And even when we did it, we didn't get a lot of I would say we didn't get a lot of examples of problems done in class, because it takes a lot to do just one of these problems. Because These particular ones are very division heavy. And if you don't like division, or doing the other side, if you don't know how to divide, then it would explain why you don't do these correctly or you didn't do it at all, because you're going to have to divide. Now, in these type of situations, what is happening is you have been given two offers and you want the one that will be best for you. Now, there are different situations for this, and depending on how you are comparing it depends on kind of what you're looking for. In this particular one, we're looking for the best buy, so the one I should purchase the most. If I'm going to purchase it, I actually want it to be the less cost between the two. So I want it to be less money than what I'm paying for the item, or for the amount in this case, since it's ounces. The same thing with the other one. I want to pay less money for each pound that I'm going to get. Now, because of time's sake, I am going to do number 4. You are required to do number 3 on your own. Now, how this works is I have two options. I can either buy this or I can buy this. But since I want to make sure I'm buying the one that costs the less amount of money, because that's the one that's the better buy for me, I want to get the same amount for less money. Now, I did not say I want to get less quality. I said I want to get the same quality. I just wanted to pay a little bit less. Not a lot less, just a few dollars less, depending on the scenario and all. Now, this one says 3 pounds for $5, or I can pay $1 per pound. Oh, sorry, $1.50 per pound. Well, the numbers as is don't match up, because this is the amount of 1 and this is the amount for 3. So I already have an amount for 1, so I'm going to turn this into an amount for 1. So remember, the number that I want to equal 1 is the pound, because that way, if it equals 1 pound, if I can get this one to equal 1 pound, I can compare the two and see which one is the cheaper of the two. So pounds is what I need to equal 1. So that's going to go in my denominator. The other number is going to be my numerator. So I'm doing dollars per pound. So let's divide this and see what we can get. Numerator in, denominator out. Remember, it is always numerator in and denominator out, no matter how big or how small the numbers are. The 3 is already a whole number, so we're just going to put a decimal point here and bring it up. Put you 3 zeros just in case you need to round, or just in case your number doesn't stop, because some of these numbers will continue on forever. Because remember, rational numbers are numbers that terminate. They do have an end, but where that end happens, you may or may not know. And then they repeat, so they may never end. And we are not going to continue solving this one problem into eternity, so we have to have a stopping point. So going here, I see I have 5. Now, for the students who did come to me to get help with division, I told you, when I divide, I always think of this as people. So I literally have 5 people, and to make a group, I need to have at least 3 people. So if I have 5 people, can I make a group of 3 people? Well, of course I can. I have actually more than what I need. I can make one group of 3 people. 3 times 1 is 3, so that goes here. 5 minus 3 is 2, so that's how many people I have left, because I can only take 3 people out of that 5 and make a group. Bring down the next number. I have 20 people now that I need to make into groups of 3. Well, can I get 3 people out of 20 people? Yes, I can. How many groups of 3 can I get out of 20? Well, I can get 6. 6 times 3 is 18. This is why, to know how to divide, you actually need to know how to multiply first, because you are multiplying to see what to subtract with. So the better you know your multiplications, the easier division will be for you. 20 minus 18, I'm not going to I'm not going to borrow, because these two numbers are too close for me not to know. This is just a difference of 2. If I add 2 to this, it's going to get me to 20. Bring down the next digit. I have another 20. So I'm starting to notice a pattern. I'm going to use another 6. And because I don't like using that many 6s in a row, I'm just going to stop right there. But that number is literally going to keep repeating into eternity because it's just going to keep being 2. So this is a repeative. Now, let's look at what we have. This is money, because that's what was in my numerator, per pound. So that's how much I would pay for 1 pound. So if I buy this, I'm going to be paying $1.66 per pound. But if I pay for this, I'm going to be paying $1.50 per pound. Well, since I want the better buy, I want the same amount, but with less money, then I'm going to pick this one. That is the better buy because it costs less for the same amount. Now you need to do the other one on your own. Now this one. Please read the directions. You need 2 of each. And I haven't even been getting that in this assignment. So I am only going to do 1 because that's how easy this is. Now, if you came to the STAR tutorials, we actually talked about something like this. So I would suggest you refer to your notes. The word you need to be paying attention to is right here. Another thing you can call this is equivalent fractions. It's the same thing. Now, I will be doing 5, and I'm only going to be doing 1. You need 2. The rest of it, you're going to do on your own. So, equivalent ratio. Well, we know equivalent means equal, but it can look different. But it has to maintain the same value. So, for me, the first one I'm going to do is 4 tenths. No, sorry, not 4 tenths. Yeah, 4 tenths. I don't know why I doubted myself because that was right. Like, it is. So 4 tenths is an equivalent ratio to 5 half. Sorry, not 2 fifths. 2 fifths. You can kind of tell I'm getting tired. My words are getting twisted. 2 fifths is equivalent to 4 tenths. Now, if you're wondering how I got to 4 tenths, well, compare the numerators and compare the denominators. How could I have gone from those first numbers to those second numbers? There's only so many different things I could have done, and I really only did one of them. That's as far as I'm going to explain. So if you want a deeper explanation, ask. But I really would suggest you get help from one of your classmates or one of your friends who is a little bit has a little bit of a higher understanding of math. That way, when you don't understand, they understand. And when they don't understand, you can help them also because there is going to be something they are weak in because that is just human nature. So this is the last assignment for a while, and I am ready to go home. So I will see y'all later. Bye.